Welcome to On the Edge of Health and Design, the podcast where healthcare meets design, with your hosts, Nita and Sylvia.
Hi, everyone. Today we welcome Dr. Cory Goldberg, a plastic surgeon who is passionate about longevity medicine. And my understanding around that is it's extending the length and quality of life, but he can qualify that definition. And Dr. Goldberg is helping to develop artificial intelligence driven personalized healthcare with the goal of maximizing health span for all. He is Chief Medical Officer of HealthSpan Digital, an innovative longevity tech company based in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, and here locally in Toronto, Canada, with a strong focus on expanding HealthSpan services through advanced AI software and smart home, gym, and clinic technologies. Welcome, Cory.
Thank you so much, Nita. It's a pleasure, and I appreciate you having me on the show, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thanks, Cory. And to start off, what does healthcare design mean to you?
I think it's a great question and a good place to start. I think to talk about healthcare design, I think the first thing that you have to define is what is healthcare. I think that one thing that we are really missing, and globally, but particularly here at home in Canada and in the United States, is healthcare right now is what we call sick care. You may have heard that expression. Ultimately, healthcare right now is designed to wait until something breaks, and then go back and try and patch it up and fix it. So I think the first part of healthcare design is really what is healthcare, and so to me, healthcare is not just fixing a disease process. Health is not just about the absence of disease. It's about optimizing function and well-being. And healthcare, I think, is really about doing that in a proactive and individualized way. So to me, healthcare design starts with healthcare in a proactive and a personalized fashion. And the design is how to get those tools out to the greatest number of people to achieve the greatest amount of good in the public health.
Yeah, we totally agree. I think our last guest kind of made that distinction too in terms of a term he used, salutogenics. I always screw it up.
Salutogenics, yeah. Yeah.
Can you
He
say it,
was
Sylvia?
he's an architect in the healthcare space. So it was salutogenics.
That's
Um,
it. It's basically looking at health in an asset-based approach and not a disease-oriented approach. So yeah, it's definitely something that we need to start doing in healthcare, and it's been a long time coming.
I think I like that term. I'm very grateful that I kind of picked up a little bit of Latin through my training and years, because you can sort of piece those things apart. Salutogenics, that's a great term. I'm going to take advantage of that one. And please thank your previous guest, because that's a great term.
Okay, thanks so much.
right.
Yeah, Ty Farrow is the architect's
All right,
name,
thanks, Ty.
and yeah. So talking about healthcare and you defined it, what do you think is the biggest challenge in healthcare right now, like outside of what you talked about? Is there anything else that you think we need to be changing?
Yeah, I think the question of what the challenge is, I think that the challenges, all the parts of it derive from the fundamental mode of care, right? The whack-a-mole, wait till something is broken, then fix it. And the things that fall out from that, the issues that come up, are first off the costs. I think that that's true globally. The healthcare inflation is astronomical, and the cost to deliver care has grown so substantially, and that's for lots of different reasons. That partially comes from improved drugs, imaging systems, all of which have massive price tags attached to them, and then the fact that sickness is being identified at late stages, such that the cost of treatment is also higher. So cost of technology is higher, cost of treatment, in a post hoc aftercare fashion is high. And the other thing that compounds all of that is the population. And our population is aging. And that's true, everywhere around the world. At this point, the population, the baby boomers are growing older, and they are starting to have increasing healthcare problems. So, up until now, we looked at a world in the past, 3 or 4 decades in Canada, at least, we looked at a world where the baby boomers were generating huge tax revenues, and there was funding coming into healthcare to build this amazing system. Only now the tax base is dropping, our productivity per capita is dropping, and suddenly we're looking at an underfunded system, while at the same time there's this huge healthcare inflation, and then the additional costs of providing care after the fact. So, to me, all of that put together, that's a crisis. And I think I can say that the Canadian healthcare system is in crisis, and it's not getting better. And it's maybe not a nice thing to say, but I compare our healthcare system to the Titanic. And whether the iceberg is in front of us and we're just waiting to hit it, or it's behind us and we're sinking, it really doesn't make a difference. We're too big to turn. It's not capable of change, in my view, and what I've seen. So, to me, the biggest challenge is we have a system that is not well designed, that is extremely expensive. The costs are only increasing. The number of people that need care are increasing, and we can't make the changes that are necessary to actually make it better.
Yeah, that came up a lot in the same question we asked of other guests, especially those working within the healthcare system. The situation is bleak. A nurse that I worked with actually recently said that the system is held together by like duct tape and band-aids. I thought, okay, yeah, that's pretty accurate. So
The
what do
you
we
know
do?
Well, I think it's a good point, and the duct tape and band-aids that hold our system together, honestly, those are the clinicians, right? Those are the nurses, those are the therapists, those are the physicians. All of the clinicians, we are an excellent group. We are very skilled, we are hardworking, and for the past few decades, as things have deteriorated, this is not a new problem. I mean, some people might look and say, okay, the pandemic hit and that's really messed everything up. The pandemic might have been our iceberg. It might have been the thing that triggered or certainly compounded the issue, but it is not the source of the issue by any means. This is an issue that started to develop 4 decades ago when the Universal Healthcare Act in Canada was enacted, and since then we haven't changed anything. So, to me, the way that we've kept things together is the fact that the clinicians are so good. They're well trained, they're knowledgeable, and they always go above and beyond. They will do what's necessary to make sure that the patients get good care, even if the system supporting them hasn't done that or helped them. And I think that the next challenge that we're going to face is that we're losing those clinicians. And it's not a brain drain. It's not people going to the US, right? People always worry about our clinicians crossing the border. They're not. They're retiring, and or they're going to work in any other field other than the hospitals in healthcare. They're consulting or doing administrative work, and they're doing it because the personal gratification that the clinicians get. I mean, part of our compensation, part of the reason we do what we do is the love of it and the joy of helping people. And now we're not doing that because the system doesn't support it. People are leaving in droves, and I've watched so many surgeons retire, and really talented people. The band-aids and duct tape, the clinicians, all that held this together, they're gone. They're disappearing, and the next generation is not going to be able to keep this together. So that's the next compounding challenge that I see coming.
Wow. It does sound very, very bleak. Like I
There's
knew,
hope. There's hope. The conversation will come to that, I promise.
yeah, yeah. The way that you put it, obviously we're aware, like Nita and yourself, you're a little bit more aware because you're in the system. But just being outside of the system, I can see how bleak it is. But wow, like a Titanic, I can see that. That's a perfect analogy of it. Um, on the other side, what are some key opportunities? Are there any key opportunities for the application of design in healthcare, and can you explain what they are?
So, great question. I said there's hope. Here's the hope. Here's what I think. So, at the start of the show, Nita, you talked about the health span concept, the idea that it's not just about increasing longevity or lifespan, it's about quality of health. That overall concept of improving somebody's health and helping them to live a longer, more fulfilling life, that's healthy longevity. And our system, there are lots of parts of it that are stagnant and incapable of change. And really, the heart of that is the funding model, and the funding model, and the way the hospital systems are run in the public healthcare system, and the fact that prevention and personalized care are not really part of that vocabulary. They don't recognize those as tools, and it's because it's not sexy, right? You can't say, I'm going to put money into preventive care and get elected, or get your next level up of bureaucratic job. Nobody likes prevention, and so the tools that are now being developed that we have at hand, they don't fall under the purview of the public healthcare system. So in healthy longevity, the one of the topics that gets discussed often is, how do you create a healthcare system? How do you design a healthcare system to perform, to do these kinds of things? Do you work within the existing healthcare systems of a country and develop that using those existing infrastructures? Or do you build it completely separate from that and then bring them together in the future, or keep them as completely parallel? It will be the difference. Do you have a really old home? Do you renovate it, or are you going to tear it down and build a new one? Or just build another place beside, and leave the old house, standing and doing its thing? So, to me, I think that the right answer to that, at least in Canada, and my knowledge of healthcare systems is really Canada and the U.S. For the most part, because I've practiced in both countries, and I have some knowledge of other systems. But in Canada, at the very least, I would say, because we can't work within the public healthcare system, I think that we need to work outside of that, and we need to develop tools for people to look after their own health care, and to take advantage of these new technologies and ways of actually helping oneself to be healthier, and provide them guidance while they're doing that. I'm not trying to talk about a two-tier healthcare system here, because on the other side, what we're talking about, although these things can be privately delivered, it's not any different from someone paying privately to go to a gym and having a gym membership, or anything that they would do to promote their own wellness. Going to a spa. People pay for those things because they know it makes them feel better. It adds to their health. That's private. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. We're doing things that offer people the opportunity to promote their own health. So there's still a public healthcare system. It is still, funded by the government. It is still a one-tier system, but this adjacent separate system is one that we can develop. It's completely legal to do that, and it means that we can offer people, in a democratized way, such that it is well available. People can therefore look after their own health care, and I think that that's the opportunity that we're looking at.
That's great, because thinking about my work, where my industry, there's a big focus on wellness. I'm in the workspace, offices, corporate, retail, and we focus heavily on wellness. So I know that's not residential, where people have to manage their own homes and figure that out in their own homes, but we try to incorporate that in the workspace. So try to encourage people to be healthy, move around, encourage keeping their mental health in check, things like that. So,
I think it's a great point, Sylvia. The idea that, health, I guess fundamentally, health should come from yourself. You should take care of yourself. You love yourself first, take care of yourself first. Not everybody does that. But the next thing to think about is, who's interested in your health, and your workplace. They are absolutely interested in your health,
Absolutely.
right? A healthy workforce means, more productivity, less sick days, better
Exactly.
work culture. So, a lot of these tools will be funded and will be managed by workplaces. Insurance companies, that's another group.
Yep.
Insurance companies are highly motivated to keep people healthy because if their clients are healthy, the cost of their insurance goes down. So, insurance companies are a great target for that. And, you mentioned residential. Residential, that's, builders, developers, and the individuals who are owning those homes. There's an opportunity there to put tools into people's homes that allow them to monitor their own health, that allow them to maximize their own health, with purified water, with monitoring the microbiome in the air, with sensors that can detect falls. We talked a little bit earlier about how the population is aging. The fact that we cannot build enough nursing homes or retirement homes to put everybody in, people look at that as a bottleneck and it's a big crisis. I look at it the opposite way. I think it's an opportunity to change our mindset. The idea that we put, old people into homes and just let them stay there. That's really not good. It's not a good culture. It's not good for their mental health or well-being. Residences, in my opinion, are going to become an active part of our healthcare. And so partnering with builders and developers to add those tools in, suddenly, that person who is at a little bit of a risk of a fall or potentially having a cardiac dysrhythmia, if you have the sensors at home that can monitor those things, suddenly home becomes a friendly environment where there can be communication and easy access to those sorts of sensors and then follow up. That's an opportunity. Those entities are going to be very happy to invest in your health because it helps them.
Yeah, really great points. This all makes a lot of sense and would work if you had a home. The people that I work with in mental health, the clients sometimes are homeless, so that's always a kind of ongoing challenge in a lot of the big cities like Toronto. But I want to turn it around to you personally, Cory, and would you like to share a little bit about your personal journey towards longevity medicine? Like what started this passion, if you will? It seems like a passion.
It's well, I think it's a passion. Well, going into med school, my undergrad was physiology, so I came into medicine with a very functional understanding of how people work, and I have to admit, through my med school and residency training, that whole sick care issue just kept coming up in my head. I'm like, why are we waiting till these tumors are at these late stages? So there was always this kind of feeling inside that we were kind of missing the boat on really managing health. When I finally got into practice, which is 17 years ago now, I realized that as I was counseling patients on getting them ready for surgery, and I'm a plastic surgeon, so I did both reconstructive and cosmetic surgery. At this point, my practice is purely cosmetic, but no matter what kind of surgery I was preparing people for, I counseled them on health, to try and maximize their safety for surgery and maximize their recovery afterwards. And it was just obvious to me the patterns. People coming into my office and they all had the same thing. They had metabolic syndrome and diabetes, or there was heart disease, and they were all on the same list of medications of the metformin and the Lipitor. And it's just, why is everybody like that? And so there was the recognition. And then as I tried to get involved in my patient's health, I realized fundamentally I was not healthy. I was just as bad as them, and I was on a track to become that way. And that's when I really turned things around for myself. And that was around 2012. And at the time, I turned around my lifestyle. I became more active. I started eating differently, bringing in much more healthy food, focusing on whole foods. And I lost 50 pounds. That was a huge change for me. It took me 2 years to do that, and I've never looked back. So, in practice, I then became more and more involved in my patients, eating and exercise and lifestyle. And so, putting all that together, that's kind of brought me to a point where personally, I really wanted to get into being able to provide these things. A few years ago, I started, getting more involved in the space and getting more educated on longevity medicine as it was just starting to develop. And I was, able to get involved in several different longevity societies and started attending conferences. And then I started presenting papers, and I have access in my practice to some very cool tools that help with HealthSpan and improve overall health as a part of my patient journey for my surgical patients. So, putting all that together, it lent itself to me developing and getting into the space. And at this point, I'm on track over the next year to actually shift my practice into a really amazing location where we will have, operating rooms and a cosmetic practice, but also a full wellness recovery center, a longevity and physiology lab, and all of these things integrated with men's health and women's health. And I'm super excited because I think this kind of a multidisciplinary, healthy longevity focused space is really going to become the cornerstone of delivering healthcare.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Where is this place going to be? Please tell me it's
Well,
local.
it's local. So a couple of years ago, I helped to co-found a company called HealthSpan Digital, which you mentioned, and we have helped to launch clinics now in Dubai, in Athens, and now Toronto. So we have one clinic in Toronto that's just at a pop-up stage down in Yorkville, but the location I'm talking about, which will be a fully integrated multidisciplinary clinic, is going to be at Yonge and Davisville, and
Ooh.
we expect the doors to open for that by January 1st of 2026. So just under a year from now, and really, really excited to get that project going.
Wow, we'll have to have you back here after that opens just to see,
How
what's
it's
it
going.
like.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, once we have the doors open, I'll invite you guys in. You're not that far. I'm sure you're somewhere down the street, one of the Toronto streets, anyways.
Great. Thanks. And we have been mentioning HealthSpan Digital a lot throughout this interview so far. So, Corey, could you explain what is HealthSpan Digital all about, and how does it leverage AI technologies to maximize health span?
So HealthSpan Digital is a company that I helped to co-found about 2 years ago now, and the it's a B2B company, and we curate longevity tools, and those longevity tools would include a suite of physiology lab assessment tools, a complement of IV therapy, supplements. We have a suite of software packages, including several AI components. And so we basically curate all of these items and allow other clinics to, pick and choose from that to then create their own longevity experience. And so we bring longevity tools to various verticals. And it doesn't just have to be in the clinical space. We're also working in fitness. So we have a few different gyms that we work with, launching longevity tools in a fitness center, and we're working with builders, with developers to actually bring these longevity tools to homes, as we were talking about a few moments ago. And so the idea is, we try to find the best tools, and also develop protocols to use all of these things, and then we implement it in whatever vertical wants to offer longevity, which would include, Sylvia, like workplace or insurance companies to be able to offer their employees the best of health options. So the concept of HealthSpan Digital is we empower other businesses to offer longevity services. AI is a part of what we offer. We have a couple of AI technologies that we're really excited about. One of them in particular is something called AI Nexus, which is an AI-driven health tool, which is based on a really large amount of data that was collected from the Mayo Clinic over a couple of decades. And that large amount of data then allowed the development of this AI tool, which can actually use a facial visual assessment with a phone camera, and offer a very accurate suite of predictions and health measures in real time. And even so far as giving 20-year cardiovascular risk, and diabetes risk, and things like that. It can detect cardiac dysrhythmia or stroke. So it's a very interesting tool. It is now being deployed. Actually, I mentioned the concept of democratization, the idea that these tools, we want to make them ubiquitous, make this a public health effort. So actually, that tool AI Nexus has been launched in Bangladesh, and at this point there are 1 million people who are under care by that system, and there are physicians who then watch and pick up the readings. So it's basically a physician extender in that regard, which allows a very large number of patients to be monitored, and when issues come up, it's brought to the attention of the sort of key physician, who can then step in and make appropriate decisions and help the patients. So it's fundamentally expanded the healthcare system, and there are some other projects along the same lines around the world that are being developed. So I'm really excited about being able to use these tools at home and abroad to really try and bring a healthier world to the people.
Absolutely. This sounds like an ultra smart home. And my next question, and I know you're fairly, like, HealthSpan Digital is fairly young, but have you successfully completed anything? Have you installed all of those elements into like a pilot space at all to see how it all works together? Or is that something that you're planning to do?
It's
Or,
underway. It's
yeah.
underway. So the we have a few there in Dubai. There's a few projects that we're working with. One which is a really huge one. It will be potentially a full city, a
Wow.
longevity city. And in Canada, we have a pilot project underway, which will be approximately 30 units, and it's north of Toronto, and that is currently under development. The properties have already been the construction has started, and so at this point we're just finalizing the tools that are going to be going in. So we should have a pilot up and running within the next year and a half, I would say.
Amazing.
Exactly.
So as we slowly wrap up this episode, I have a couple questions for you. First one is, what's one key takeaway that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
One key takeaway, I guess I'm a plastic surgeon, so somewhere in me there's an aesthetic part, and up until a few years ago when I got into the longevity space and started working on this as a part of my practice, I really looked at health and beauty as being separate. I think if there's any one takeaway I would like people to get from this is that they are not. Beauty and health are directly linked. The health of your skin is directly linked to the health of every other organ in your body. And if your skin is not healthy, it absolutely means that you are having health issues in your brain and your heart. And it's not just a sign, it's not just an indicator. Poor skin health actually drives organ dysfunction. And so, sun damage and poor quality skin, it's not just skin deep, it is absolutely affecting the rest of you. So the real way to achieve beauty and to maintain it is to be healthy. And so I call that beauty span.
It's a great takeaway. Thank you. And my second question is, if longevity medicine allows us to live healthier for much longer than we do on average now, what would you do with all that extra time?
I guess there's a long list. The answer to that is, first, I will change my and hopefully other people's concept of time and aging. The premise that you hit 65 and you retire, I don't think that that's accurate anymore. We are living longer and we're going to continue to live longer and healthier while we do it. And that means we're going to be capable. So it doesn't mean that you stop working at 65. You're going to continue working, but you may go and get a new career. You're
Yep.
going to go do another degree. So what am I going to do with all that time? I don't know. I'm sitting down. I want to write a book. I think I'd like to go back and do a PhD. Probably about 10 years from now, I'm hoping to go back to school. So to me, I mean, I don't know how long I can be a plastic surgeon for, but I'm hoping to be able to provide healthcare and other services. I don't know, 20, 30 years from now, I'm still going to be working. I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but it may be a whole different career to what I'm doing today. I mean, my job today may be taken over. It may not even exist anymore in 30 or 40 years. So, what am I going to do with all that time? A lot. And I can tell you I'm never going to stop because that's what life is about. It's about having purpose and doing stuff. So, I'm excited. The longer I have, the healthier I am, the more stuff I can do.
Absolutely. And that reminds me, we had an episode in our first season. We had somebody on talking about being a lifelong learner. Um,
Was that
do,
Mebs? Might have been Mebs. Yeah, he's kind of into longevity too, from just a bit of a different angle. But you talked about the 100-year life, right?
yeah.
And how he retired when he was my age, so like in his 40s, and then he's like, "What's next? What do I do next? I have
Well, I can tell
half
you
my
if you're
life
gonna
left."
if you go and sit on a beach and drink margaritas, I can tell you, your life is not going to be very long or fulfilling after that.
Yeah.
So, retirement in my mind is not a you stop doing things. Retirement is a state of you get to choose what you do and when you do it. I can't imagine a better way to live. But yeah, just keep doing stuff.
Yeah, keep doing stuff you enjoy, I think. Or
Or try
whatever.
things that you might enjoy too.
Yeah,
New
yeah.
experiences, learn more things like Corey here, who's gonna get his PhD done.
Sounds good. So if people, our listeners, want to know more about you, Corey, and HealthSpan Digital, where should they go?
Well, a couple places. Healthspan.digital is the website for that company. I also have beautyspan.com, and
Hmm.
beautyspan.com is the place where I sort of talk about that relation between health and beauty. Those are two great places to find me. You can also find me on Instagram, Dr. Cory Goldberg, MD, and I'll be posting lots of stuff about healthy longevity, including some spirituality. I've got a really cool
Mm.
spiritual wellness person who is going to be helping when posting stuff about that. So yeah, lots of good stuff to come, and those are the different places you can find me.
Great,
Okay, thank
thank
you
you.
so much for being on this podcast and opening our minds to longevity medicine.
It's really my pleasure, Anita. Sylvia, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and it's a great conversation. And I will look forward to our follow up when we have our new clinical space open next year.
To recap today's episode, we spoke with Dr. Cory Goldberg, a Canadian plastic surgeon with experience in reconstructive and cosmetic surgery. Cory highlighted several challenges facing our Canadian healthcare system using the analogy of the Titanic ship sinking. Our system focuses on reactive sick care versus preventative healthcare. Our system faces rising healthcare needs with an aging population and accelerating healthcare costs. Cory identified our clinicians as the duct tape and band-aids that hold our healthcare system together. Note that this original quote around duct tape and band-aids was from Nurse Greg at Toronto General Hospital. Key opportunities for health system change include leveraging different healthcare funding models. This would include providing wellness services outside of our public healthcare system. Towards this end, Cory co-founded HealthSpan Digital, a business-to-business longevity technology company. Digital tools curated by HealthSpan Digital include those that monitor and enhance our health and can be incorporated directly into our homes and communities. Cory's key takeaway was the concept of beauty span, which bridges the connection between our skin health and our overall health and longevity. The notion of beauty span challenges our current concepts around aging, allowing us to live healthier, more productive, and purposeful lives for as long as possible. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Thank you for joining us on The Edge. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others or leave a comment or rating. Stay tuned for more episodes of On the Edge of Health and Design.